I worked for many years as a housekeeper for a wealthy family, and one day, while I was doing the laundry, I discovered my employer's dirty secretone that would end up changing my own life as well. It was a Thursday, just like any other, when the misfortune happened, because Mondays and Thursdays were my laundry and ironing days. I was very well organized. I knew exactly what I had to do each day, where everything in the house belonged, and nothing was ever left uncleaned, unfolded, or unstarched after I was done. That's why my employers appreciated me. A successful couple, he a businessman, she a teacher, both nearly 40 years old, and they seemed to have everything, except that they didn't have children yet. For me, it was a pleasure to come to their home. Everything was so beautiful, so luxurious. I felt like a little privileged person, even though I was the one coming to clean that little paradise. In the evening, I would grab my bag and leave with the minibus that took me to the city entrance. Then I would run to catch the tram, and after many stops I would finally get home too. I would walk through the poor neighborhood where I lived. I stepped on sunflower seed shells and cigarette butts scattered on the sidewalk between the apartment blocks, then climbed up to the second floor and arrived home, to my little place. And when I saw my little girl and boy, I realized that, simple as we were, I had my own paradise too, a hard-working husband, 2 healthy children, and myself with a good job. And I was grateful to God for that. But let's get back to that Thursday. By nature, I'm not a nosy person, and that's another reason why I've managed to earn my boss's trust all these years. But you see, the truth has its own mysterious ways of revealing itself. And on that June day, it chose me. I had gone down to the basement, into the room where the laundry was, and started loading the clothes into the washing machine. They weren't the boss's fancy suits. Those I took separately, to the dry cleaners. These were weekend clothes, jeans, t-shirts, socks. I sorted the clothes by color, and when I picked up a pair of jeans, out of habit, I stuck my hand in the pockets to make sure they were empty. I didn't even usually do that, to rummage through them. But probably something in my instincts that day made me search the back pockets insistently. And look, I had found something. It was a photograph of a boy about 8 years old, happily sitting in the arms of a man. The man in the photo was none other than my boss. At first I smiled, thinking how good he would look as a father. He and my boss, Mrs. Ottilia, had been together for 6 years, and I suspected they were having some problems, and that was why they hadn't been able to become parents until now. But I don't know what made me turn the photograph over then, only to see a message that gave me a sinking feeling in my stomach. It simply said in a child's handwriting, "I miss you, Daddy." Oh my goodness. It felt like the sky was falling on me, honestly. What do you mean, Daddy? Did my boss, Mr. Christie, have a child? And just when you think you really know people just because you cross their doorstep every single day. But in the end, what business was it of mine what went on in their lives? I was there to clean, not to know all about their past or present. He wasn't the first, nor would he be the last person to have a child from another marriage or relationship. So I put the photo safely in my pocket, planning to return it to my boss at the first opportunity. Good thing it hadn't ended up in the washing machine and gotten wet, I thought to myself at the time. That evening, I said goodbye to Mrs. Ottilia, who was still in the kitchen, and on my way to the exit, I handed my boss the photo I had found. I admit, I was a bit shy about the situation, but what else could I do? "Boss, I did the laundry today, and this slipped out of your jeans. I thought I should give it to you." "Good thing it didn't end up in the machine," I said quickly. And Mr. Christie, I don't even remember what he mumbled, but I quickly left the house, saying I was in a hurry to catch the minibus. But I wasn't going to get off that easily. That same evening, after I finished cooking for my family, my phone rang. It was the boss. "Yes, boss." "Everything okay? Liliana, we need to talk for a bit." "I'm in the car, in front of your building. Can you come down?" I froze a little when I heard that. "What? You're at my building?" I stammered. Yes, I was in the area and... "But come on, just come down." "I won't keep you long. I just want to talk about something." I told Doru, my husband, that Mr. Christie had called me, and he looked at me with a slight frown, as if he was about to make a jealous scene. "What business does he have asking you to come down in front of the building at night and outside of work hours?" I couldn't help but laugh when I heard him. "Oh, come on, you're unbelievable." Who knows what he wants? I just hoped he wouldn't scold me because of the photo, I thought to myself. Because something inside me told me that was where the trouble was. When I went down in front of the building, Mr. Christie gestured for me to get into his car. It was already night outside. I just hoped that none of the neighbors would see me in his expensive car. Not for any other reason, but where there's poverty, there's also a lot of gossip and malice, at least among my neighbors in the neighborhood. "Good evening, Mr. Christie." What happened? With a serious expression, he looked at me and asked directly, "Liliana, who else knows about the photo you found while doing the laundry?" "No one, boss." "Who else could know?" "Otilia, my wife?" "No, I didn't tell the lady," I assured him with all my sincerity. "Your husband?" "I don't talk to Doru about household matters." "Any friend, neighbor?" "Boss, you have my word." "I haven't spoken to anyone." "Good," he muttered. Then he took out a small bag, and when he opened it, I saw more money gathered in one place than I had ever seen in my life until then. "Liliana, I want you to take this money, and tomorrow I want you to come to our house and hand in your resignation. You'll tell Otilia that you found another job closer to home, and you are to forget about what you found in my jeans. And never speak to anyone about this." I was speechless. I couldn't believe what I was hearing. "This money is yours. You will do well with them. But if you ever say anything about this story, remember that word gets around. I can take you to court. It's easy for me to find a reason, and I don't think you want to waste your time with lawyers and courtrooms." I could feel tears welling up in my eyes. I felt as if I had done something wrong, as if I was involved in something shady, when all I had done was put some clothes in the wash. I took the money, since she wouldn't let me leave without it, and that night I could barely get a wink of sleep. And I didn't even have anyone to tell what had happened to me. The next day, I showed up at work again, as if nothing had happened. I told my boss, Mrs. Otilia, that I wanted to resign. And she was devastated to hear the news. "No, Liliana, how can I let you go? You've been part of the family for a long time. Tell me what you need." "Are you struggling financially? I thought you were happy here." I held back my tears then, seeing how much this woman cared about me. And I cared about her too. She wasn't at all some rich woman with her nose in the air. I still remember how she offered to help my son with math tutoring when he was in the 6th grade. "Liliana, look, tell me what amount of money would make you happy. I'll talk to Christy as well. And we really want you to stay." "Mrs. Otilia, it's not about the money. I also spend a lot of time commuting. I want to be closer to my family." I lied to her then, but I had nothing else to say. I also said that I could only stay until the end of the week, because starting Monday, I lied again, I was supposed to start on the other side. But my ordeal was only just about to begin. I was going to lie at home too, just so we wouldn't have problems in the future. I didn't tell Doru any of this, not about the money, not about the photo, not about me leaving. In the morning, I woke up at the same time as usual. I made breakfast, got dressed, and left the house at the same time as the kids. I pretended I was heading to the tram, but I would avoid the station and sit somewhere in a park instead. And there I would stay for about 2 hours. I knew that Doru left for work later, so I would calculate my time, then come back home without anyone knowing. When it was about the time the kids would get home, I would leave again. I would go do the shopping, run some errands, and when 6 o'clock came, I would go back into the house, as if I had just returned from work. I had never been the kind of person to lie, and look at me now, living a double life. And I couldn't get my former boss out of my head. Was he doing the same thing? Was he also living a double life? By now, I was firmly convinced that Mrs. Otilia knew nothing about the story with the child. Otherwise, her husband wouldn't have given me all that money to leave. I couldn't even bring myself to touch that money. I put it in the desk so Doru wouldn't find it. And I kept thinking about my boss, woman to woman, even though we came from different worlds. What must have been in her heart, I wondered, if she had found out the truth? She would probably be devastated. But wasn't I destroying her life too, by keeping silent? But life was about to teach me another lesson, one that would hurt even more. One morning I left the house pretending I was going to work, just as I had been doing for about 2 weeks. I seemed to avoid any conversation with my husband, and I could sense that he was more distant too. I knew I was wronging him, but I did it to protect my family. Besides, I told myself, it was only a temporary situation. I had already looked at a few job ads, and that morning I sat down on a bench in a small park to make some calls and schedule a few interviews. When I looked at my watch and saw that it was already the time when Doru should have been on his way to work, I headed home as well. But, caught up in my thoughts, I hadn't even realized that our car was still in the parking lot. And when I walked into the house, I found Doru with his pants unbuttoned and without a shirt on. He appeared in the hallway and looked at me with wide eyes, and I looked back at him with even wider eyes. I couldn't believe it. He was still getting ready to leave the house, and I had given myself away. "What are you doing, Liliana? Weren't you supposed to be at work? What are you doing here?" He quickly started questioning me. The thought that he might find out about my lie gave me a sinking feeling in my stomach. But on the other hand, something about his tone bothered me even more. "I came back because I forgot something," I replied. And I waited another couple of seconds and then said to him, "But what do you mean? What am I doing here?" At that moment, a loud creak shattered the silence and tension between me and my husband. I knew that creak. It was the bathroom door with the hinges that needed oiling. And when I looked over my husband's shoulder, I saw the silhouette of a woman covered only with a towel coming out of our bathroom, while Doru put his hands on his head, no longer having the courage to say anything. "Who are you? Put your clothes on and get out of my house." I burst out at the woman who had entered my bed and my marriage, with a lioness-like voice I barely recognized as my own. "And you, Doru, is this what you do? While I believe you're at work?" Doru tried to come closer to me, to explain, but I didn't want to see him in front of my eyes. "Get out now. I don't want to see you anymore." "Get out! Stop yelling for a second, everyone can hear you," he kept saying as he looked for his t-shirt. "I don't care. It's not my shame, it's yours. And that's how I kicked them out of the house." Doru without a t-shirt on, and the lady half undressed. "The house is in my name, don't forget that." I still heard Doru's brazen voice from behind the door. They had no choice but to get in the car and figure things out from there. I closed the door behind me and I was shaking all over. The shock was so great that I couldn't even cry. I was the thief who had caught another thief. I had felt so guilty for lying to my husband about what had happened at work. And yet he had no shame cheating on me right in our house, in our bed. I was absolutely revolted, disgusted. That day, I cleaned the house and disinfected every corner, hoping it would erase that woman from my memory. But it wouldn't go away. I was now a former housekeeper witnessing the dirty secret in her own home. A month had already passed since that incident. Doru and I were sleeping in separate rooms. We only spoke when necessary, and he hadn't even come to apologize. And I think what hurt me the most was the night he didn't come home at all. So the next day I went to the bank, withdrew the money I had received from my former boss, and did what I thought needed to be done. When Mrs. Otilia opened the door for me that morning, she was surprised to see me. "Liliana, what a joy to see you again. What are you doing here? Are you home alone?" "Yes. I was just getting ready to leave myself." "What happened?" she asked me now, slightly worried. "We need to talk." And then I went inside and told her everything. I had to experience the betrayal of my own husband firsthand in order to better put myself in her shoes, and I realized that no matter how much the truth hurts, it's better to know than to live a lie. Mrs. Otilia looked at me, confused. Something seemed not to add up in her mind. "But I don't understand. We've been struggling for years to have a child. to have a family of our own. You have no idea, Liliana, how much money I've spent on doctors, on tests, thinking there was something wrong with me, that I was no longer fertile. For a while I thought maybe it was because of him, and now you're telling me there's a chance he already has a child, and that he gave you money so I wouldn't find out anything? Mrs. Otilia, please forgive me. I never wanted things to get to this point. I was just doing my job, putting the laundry in the wash when I found what I found. And if it hadn't been for my husband's betrayal, which hurt me, I wouldn't have found the courage to come and tell you. Here is the money. I didn't touch them. I have to go now, to put my own life in order. And I left, not knowing where to go, because home no longer felt like home. But now I had only one priority left in my life, my children. A few days later, I received a phone call from Mrs. Otilia. When I answered, there was complete silence. Hello? Hello, Mrs. Otilia? A trembling voice came through the phone then. You were right, Liliana. He lied to me. My former boss and I were two women from different worlds. But now, here we were, experiencing the same pain. I ended up at her house again that day, and I was about to learn the harrowing story of her marriage. Mr. Christie, a charmer, an attentive man, a successful businessman, had only one flaw. He didn't want children. He considered himself a free spirit and believed that a child ruins the relationship between partners, that a woman becomes distant from her husband once she becomes a mother. That's what happened in his last relationship when he was young. And that's how he ended up leaving it and becoming a father who is only present for his son in small doses. But that's not even the worst part, Liliana, my former boss told me, wiping her cheeks. He had surgery. Christie had surgery before we met. A vasectomy. So he could never become a father again, not even by accident. I even called the doctor I sent him to for his tests. He lied to me about that too. I listened to Mrs. Otilia and couldn't believe what I was hearing. He thought that no woman would stay with him if she knew he couldn't have children anymore. And he also thought it would be easier to blame the woman, to say that I wasn't fertile enough. Until I would have given up. Mrs. Otilia's situation was even worse than mine, and I kept wondering how it was possible that the person you shared so much with could turn out, one day, not to be who you thought they were. As for my Doru, who had fallen in love with his colleague at work because she made him feel younger, I tried to forgive him at least for the sake of the children, but I couldn't. Something inside me told me that it wasn't the first time he had strayed, and it wouldn't be the last. So I packed my bags, took my children, and for a while I moved into Mrs. Otilia's house, at her invitation. I was now working for her again, and until I managed to sort out the divorce from Doru and the division of the house, she offered to help me with everything I needed. Her gesture meant a great deal to me. I was especially happy for the children, to see them enjoying this new house for a while, running around the big garden and splashing in the pool on weekends. For the time being, it eased their sadness a little. As for my former boss, he packed his own bags, as he knew best, after being exposed. He left the house to Mrs. Otilia, without further discussion, in exchange for her silence. Once again, he acted just as he always had. And once again, I marveled at how I, a simple housekeeper, and this remarkable woman, who was once again my boss, had stood by each other when our men decided to turn our lives upside down. Liliana, I want you to keep this money you received from Christie. At least for the children. You will need it. They will grow up. They'll go to college. Don't think of it as dirty money. Money is just money. It only becomes dirty if people change their values for it. And you, my dear, have remained an honest person. We hugged each other then like two sisters. And in that moment I felt lighter and more free than I had in a long time. My life was changing at a rapid pace, and, although it wasn't easy, I felt that with each passing day I was becoming stronger and stronger. If I've learned anything from everything I've been through, it's that the truth hurts, but lies tear you apart from the inside. When I chose to stay silent, I did it to protect. But my silence didn't save anyone. It distanced me from myself, from the person I knew I was, And even if life brought me to my knees and I didn't understand why, now I know one more thing, that nothing happens by chance. Life finds unexpected ways to show you the truth. And if it hadn't happened that way, if I hadn't found that photograph in my boss's pocket, which led to my forced dismissal, maybe I would have never discovered who the man I thought I was building a home with really was, and what he was doing when I wasn't there. It wasn't easy to accept. When it's time for change, God doesn't come to ask if you're ready. And sometimes you need to lose everything you thought you needed in order to return to what truly matters. Your children, your peace, and your self-respect. I chose to leave a lie behind, to stop lying to myself and to others. And do you know what I discovered? That the freedom you feel when you break away from what no longer deserves you is 1,000 times sweeter than any illusion of security. The truth breaks you, but then it rebuilds you. And from those wounded pieces, the strongest version of yourself is born. If you've made it to the end of the story, show us your appreciation. Leave us a like or a heart. Subscribe to this channel to hear from us again. And don't forget to share it with your friends.